As everybody probably is aware, the prosecutors made a decision on the Chism case not to charge Todd Chism with the download or possession of child pornography. We thought it important as the Washington State Patrol to come forward today and give some information that we've been unable to talk about in this case due to the prosecutor having the case and not making a charging decision. Now that that's been made, we'd like to cover some of the things that occurred in the case that maybe you haven't heard yet. The most important comment that I think I can start out with is there has been no evidence whatsoever of download by the Chisms of child pornography. That case is now concluded, and we have found no evidence that the Chisms have done any downloading of pornography, child pornography, or possession of it. I think it would be good now to let you know how proud we are of the Missing and Exploited Children's Task Force that's based out of Olympia that does a statewide job for this very heinous crime that I think we're all concerned about as looking at it in our communities. Protecting these most vulnerable people in our society, our children, is very important, and we investigate these crimes with zeal to bring these perpetrators to justice whenever possible. We have a very good track record in the Missing and Exploited Children's Task Force, and we stand behind that. I'd like to run through chronology of this case. This investigation began when we received a tip from the National Missing and Exploited Children's Center in Washington, D.C. And what we received was there was a download of child pornography purchased by a credit card that was registered to the Chisms. Before the serving of the search warrant in January, the detectives were aware of potential fraud on the Chism's credit card. But in this case, there was more than one credit card that the detectives were dealing with. There were actually 4 separate credit cards, of which there was some fraud present that the Chisms were aware of, and they were challenging this fraud on the other credit cards. The important thing to note that the detectives had information that the credit card used that was registered to the Chisms to buy 3 downloads of verified child pornography did not have any challenges or fraud indicated on this particular credit card. The detectives did their due diligence and tried to determine where exactly the download of this child pornography occurred and ran into somewhat of a dead end in that they were unable to determine where the purchase of this child pornography went via the web. And that's something that we're learning as we go through in these child pornography cases that occur on the internet, that these criminals are becoming very, very sophisticated. What we found out is that the download went to what's called a proxy server. That this proxy server was an innocent person's computer that was left on, and the criminals were using this computer to take the child pornography downloaded and purchased on record with the Chism's credit card and downloaded it to a place that we just can't determine. These cases are very, very complex. Without the information of exactly where the download went, and having 3 verified purchases of child pornography on the Chism's credit card, without a challenge by the Chisms, when the other credit cards had been challenged by the Chisms for lesser amounts of purchase, it was reasonable in the detective's mind to figure that they needed to see the computers that were located in the Chism's residence, as well as at the Spokane Fire Department where Mr. Chism is currently employed. And that's why the search warrant was served. And in the mind of the detectives at that time, with these 3 purchases, they arrested Mr. Chism and booked him into the Spokane County Jail. We acknowledge the difficulty that the Chisms have had to endure throughout this. My wife and I were sitting at the table the other night, and I was explaining to her exactly what had occurred in this, and she too would have been disturbed by what has occurred here. But we must say that this case was based on good faith. With the information that the detectives had at the time, what was presented in front of them, we believe that the service of the search warrant, the arrest, and the subsequent actions were valid. Again, the Chisms have not been shown to have any child pornography whatsoever. At this point, the case is closed. We've been unable to determine where the downloaded child pornography went to. We've done a exhaustive fraud or identity theft case into the purchase of the Chism's credit card, and we've been able to determine who exactly did that. What we think we have here is the Chisms were a victim of fraud. As you all know, this case was sent to the prosecutor's office for review for potential charges, and this morning the prosecutor declined to file any charges.